Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Cam. Let's talk some stocks. So today is Sunday, March 14th, and in this video we're going to be looking at cannabis stocks. They got a good pop last week. Most companies had a pretty significant green week, moving higher, especially Tilray, up on news from New Zealand. So in this video we're going to look at Tilray, Aphria, CGC, Cannabis Growth, Sundial, and Aurora Cannabis. So we'll start out with Tilray here. So it popped on news that they got approval to basically grow and sell and commercialize medical cannabis in New Zealand. And then Aphria is also up on different news, right? These are Canadian-based companies, so they Canada's cracking down on basically home growers. So this is better for obviously the commercial side of business for these companies to sell recreation and medical in Canada and then eventually the United States. But I've gotten comments in other cannabis videos, why aren't we talking about American ones? Well, American ones aren't listed, and once America does become federally legalized, a lot of those cannabis companies will be going public, SPACs, IPOs, those things. So that's down the road, and these Canadian companies also could be looking to merge with them on the way. But so Tilray, we'll look here on the weekly. So the beginning of February, February 8th, we got that big cannabis run all the way up to 67. So long term hit that 78.6 fib. So obviously Tilray's chart when it ran, back in 2018, all the way to $300 down to 243. So huge spread over that time frame, but got right up to that 78 fib, rejected it real hard, honestly, with the candle having basically a $40 wick, but sold off that last 3 weeks. Found some support down here in the 23.6 fib off that 100, or I should say the 100 of the blue, so that 67 down to 243, the recent move. So pulled back to 23.6. Also just along that area we did have 3 days resistance for volume right here that did act as support. Buyers came in, pushed this thing higher back up to the 9 EMA, and then last week buyers came in on more volume, right? So this descent, volume decrease. So looking for volume to pick up this week to move this thing higher. And you'll notice here, right, we closed basically right on the 200 weekly EMA, which I always hate this. This is a 278, or excuse me, 27.89. Closed at 27.57. So if we look at just the volume here from this side, considerable volume right here between like 27 and 30, but once we get above that, pretty thin. So if volume comes in this week, buyers come in, we can move pretty quickly. And then we'll just go look at the daily chart. You'll see here pull back basically to the 50. Buyers came on the 50, the first drop on February 23rd, and then sold below it here on March 5th, but buyers still stepped up, pushed it right back up to that close above the next day. And then now we got these EMAs curling, right? So the 9's about to cross the 22. So we're getting this upward momentum building, and you'll see here just the volume steady picking up this week. 18 to 17, 27, 38, 40. So volume's coming back in. So we'll see if we can get these volume numbers here, the 1 to 200 million shares a day. Obviously that would look to push this thing higher. And then we'll go look at Aphria, which is its merger partner. We'll go back to the weekly, just see its long-term setup. Fib level still from the same like Tilray. So from the recent move, 32.9 to 195. Found support at the 38.2 fib instead of going all the way down to 23.6. But buyers propped that up, right? So a lot of prior resistance support right about that $14 area, just below the high 13s. Buyers came in right about $14, 13.78 was the low. Pushed this higher, closed back up above the 9 EMA, pushed this up higher back to the $20 range. And just here on the weekly volume again, there's not a significant amount of volume above. So if buyers comes in, could be looking at a squeeze, right? These stocks are pretty heavily shorted. With the downturn, especially Tilray. Tilray's more heavily shorted than the rest, but and also favorite from message boards, forums, those financial Twitter, stock twits. But pretty good green candle, still an inside candle from last week. So like I mentioned in other videos, a typical play is for an inside candle, right? Is you mark the high, you mark the low. If it breaks the high, you go long. If it breaks the low, you go short. So if this thing can get above 2063, which is the high of the candle, right? That's that 61.8 fib, basically 20.7. Could look for this thing to obviously first got to get through 21.2, quickly go take out this 22.68, and then maybe retrace all the way back into 78.6 fib here pretty quickly as the volume dries out after about 23 bucks. So we'll go down to the daily here. Kind of similar story. Buyers came in on the 50, pushed us over. The 9 here stayed above the 22 the entire time, which is a good sign to be bullish, right? So it never crossed over, touched it, but came back up and through. And now we're separating, right? So it means the move is accelerating, right? So volume, I actually didn't look at the weekly volume. Should have mentioned that, right? So we actually had less volume this week, but the difference between buyers and sellers was far greater, and crossed back over into the overbought area. But as you can see, we had basically 2 months in overbought, so not incredibly significant right now at this point. If momentum pushes us higher, and then you see here on the daily we're within bounds, so we could look for this thing to at least move up to this edge of this trading range quickly if we get above this 61 fib, right? So resistance in the $22 area. We wicked it twice, tried to close that 21.74 here on the 16th, so could quickly move into the 22s. We'll go to CGC next. Oops. Canopy Growth Company. So chart obviously looking very similar to the rest, even similar support here. So the 38.2 from the recent move, 61.8 from its 2008 high, or excuse me, 2018 high, not 2008, down to the $9. But pulled back using that 22 weekly area support. We're able to close above the 50 fib from the longer downturn fib retracement. Close right about on it, and you see here on the weekly volume, right? So we do have a good volume base here, 34, 35 area. So if you can poke through that 35, there's relatively low volume, from 35.5 up to 38. So we could quickly fill that area with volume coming in, right? So similar to Aphria, less volume this week, but mixed volume here, showing that it's almost entirely buyers. So buyers are coming in, looking to push this thing back up. We'll go look at the daily chart. All right, so daily chart not as bullish as the weekly. We're all sitting right under the EMAs, right? So poke the 22, sold off, closed right below the 50. The 9's coming back up, so we'd like to see this 9 in the next few days get us to cross over the 50 and 22 to push us up higher. But here, just here on the weekly, right? So we got this big hammer pin bar. So buyers really supported that $28 level, and now we're see if we can get up higher to this 34. If buyers can use this 50 fib from the recent move as support to push this up higher on positive momentum. And then you do see here, got a little bit of a gap here, low volume again, just like on the weekly, low volume above, really 35 up to that $38, $40 area. So if volume comes in, we can push higher pretty quickly. And then we'll look at Sundial, which is a favorite on Wall Street Bets and Twitter. Charts almost exactly the same daily and weekly. All right, so it's just sector movements. Obviously, long term, this thing was beat down quite considerably more, down into the 14 cents. But here, use the 22 as support on the weekly. Close right about on the 9, and then we got the push above the 50 here this past week. And then just up above, we'll see if we can go get up to this 38.2 fib. That should be, your first target, that 1.6 area. So we'll see if we can get there, get that far up this week. That's basically a 10% move. So could be done. This thing obviously showing that it can run pretty quickly when the volume comes in, right? So the high volume on a week, 8.4 billion shares, only had 1.3 this week, so still considerably less volume. And volume this week is about the same as the week before, but obviously, mixed volume again, showing that the most of the volume is buying. So buyers are stepping back up. Go to the daily, right? So we are hugging on the 9.22. Looks like the 9. It's obviously crossed below here, beginning of the week. Maybe crossing over here at the end of the week. look for those areas to hold. It pushes up higher to this 1.6, and then above 1.6, volume dries out to about $2. So if we can get over this 38.2 fib, we could quickly go to that 50 fib, especially with high volume coming back in to the stock. I'm sure Sundial will be pumped pretty heavily on Wall Street Bets and financial Twitter this week. It's a favorite of a lot of chat rooms and Discord, so keep an eye on it. And then lastly, ACB. So ACB, I think it's probably the weakest name out of the group, as they just offered like $1 billion in securities, and they got a underperform rate right here, underperform rating from Jefferies. So they needed some capital. So if we go just out to the weekly, all right, so their move on the chart is higher, was quite less than the other companies, so it's a laggard of the group. And then the buying pressure that came in this week, just like the others, as the sector is picking up, definitely didn't have the force upward as the others, right? So we couldn't get above the 9 EMA, and this would still, in my mind, be a pretty significant downtrend, right? So we just every week we have a lower high. So we got this inside bar, but still inside bar play. If we can break above 1082, look to go long. If it drops below 9.2, look to go short. All right, so if we get through 1082, I'd say this 11.7 fib first, but usually you look at to take out the high of the outside bar or the engulfing bar, right? So that'd be 1208. If we can get all the way to that 1082, 1208. Here down lower would be 9.2 to 8.65. But still lower volume this week, but green. So buyers are interested in the stock and sector as whole, obviously from the 4 other companies. But here on the daily, this is just still a downtrend. We need to break through this 2250 crossover first, right at about $11, and to see if we can get up into the 11.7 range. And if we look at the volume here for the daily, if I can zoom out for you, right, we kind of have a big base here, and between 10 and 11, this gap here. If you look at the volume bar, Thinkorswim calls that like your point of control. So if we can get above that, we're back into what they say, buyers in control. If you look at the RSI, we're right about 46, so close to that 50 midpoint. So look to see if buyers can push ACB higher, but I think it's the laggard of the group. My main focus for watching these cannabis stocks is probably going to be Tilray, Aphria, and then Sundial if you are a penny stock guy or have a smaller account looking to grow it. So that's all I got for you guys in this video. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. As always, you got something for me, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you, and we'll see you in the next one.